know what to make of this one. The cover is incredible, the plot is quite compelling, it's quite short as well, but somehow it just didn't quite work for me. It's The Ice Palace by Tarjei Vesaas from 1963. And that's what I'm going to discuss today in this video. So if you would like to see more videos like this, please do remember to like, subscribe, and also leave a comment. So Vesaas is a Norwegian writer, or was a Norwegian writer. He's not someone that I had actually ever heard of, but apparently a very successful writer in Norway, nominated for the Nobel Prize 30 times. And then it was also translated into English by Elizabeth Rocken. So Un and Sis are two 11-year-old girls who have just started their friendship, the beginning of their friendship. Un moved to the area following the death of her mother quite recently, and so perhaps because their introduction, the two girls' introduction, was born out of that tragedy, it does explain why it's their relationship is so much more emotionally heightened than it might otherwise have been. They kind of spend 6 months kind of looking at each other, thinking about each other, and seeing each other at school, but not really interacting that much. And then now, at the beginning of the book, something is going to happen, and there's this real sense of anticipation that something now is going to happen. And Un invites Sis round to her house after school, so Sis goes, and Vesaas really does a great job of building up that anticipation, or describing the anticipation and the suspense that the two girls both feel, particularly Sis, whose point of view we get at the very beginning of the story. They're 11-year-old, and when I was reading it from the point of view of the reader, there was something that was a little bit strange about the intensity of their relationship, given that they didn't really actually know each other very well, and all this build-up of anticipation. It seemed a little bit odd, and it almost seems like there's the potential for their relationship to become romantic or even sexual, until I found out that they were 11, and thankfully we don't go down that path, because that would be a very different book and I wouldn't want to read about it, to be honest with you. But yeah, there's this it's very intense beginning of a relationship that seems a little bit odd, and I'm not sure if it's supposed to seem strange or perhaps too intense, too emotionally heightened, or whether it's just me and I can't remember what it's like to be an 11-year-old, and perhaps that's just how you feel about friendships and relationships. All the build-up of that anticipation really gives you the impression that something is going to happen at their meeting or because of their meeting, and that there's something perhaps about Un that we need to learn, perhaps her history, perhaps she has a secret that she needs to declare, or that she wants Sis's involvement in something later on. And something does happen following that meeting, but it's kind of an unrelated yet related event. So there is this incredible ice palace, the eponymous ice palace, so this incredible ice structure or sculpture over a giant waterfall. And so the children have been talking about going there to visit it, and Un decides that she can't face seeing Sis the next day at school after their meeting, so she goes alone to explore and discover the ice palace, and she doesn't return. The passage, or the passages where she's exploring that ice palace, are quite compelling, I think, because it's on the back of the book, it's in the blurb that she doesn't return from exploring the ice palace. So because I knew that, I was waiting for it to happen. I was waiting for something to happen while she was there. And again, it's that anticipation that I think runs throughout the book. All the characters seem to feel this anticipation, particularly Sis and Un, who are incidentally the only named characters, so it's really their perspectives that you get and nobody else's. But also from the perspective of the reader, I think I felt like something's going to happen, what is it going to be, how is this going to actually play out? And that does also make it seem more sad as well, because you're just waiting for something tragic to happen. And so I don't know if that is so much the book and the writing, or whether that it was just heavily influenced by the fact that I knew from reading on the back that something was going to happen. But I would say that that sense of anticipation is a kind of a theme throughout the book. I have to say, I did find it a little bit hard to fully understand what the ice palace was. I mean, it's not an actual palace, it is just like a natural creation of nature from ice and frozen water. But I just struggled a little bit with the passages that described it, and I don't know whether that's just me and I struggle to visualise things that I've never seen, whether it's Vesaas's writing style, or whether it's actually the translation into English that may have lost some things in translation, or maybe just made things slightly less clear. It's always hard to tell with translated books, I think personally anyway. You know, let me know if you agree or disagree, but it's always hard to tell whether you're getting the author's voice and their writing, or how much it has been influenced by the translator. I think being a translator must be such an interesting job, but also really hard to make the work understandable to the audience, the English language audience, for example, but also stay true to the original author's vision and style. Must be really hard. So I don't know if that had an impact, but I feel like it was probably a lot of me as well, because these are the kind of things that I kind of struggle to get from books. There's definitely, you know, the book is set in the deep of winter when it's cold and dark, and when Sis is walking to Un's house, she's walking there in the biting cold, wrapped up in a huge coat, in the dark, even though it's not long after the school day's finished, but it's already like pitch black, and she's scared of the dark, so she's trying to be as brave as she can during that time. When it does snow in the book, it snows after Un's gone missing, and so the snow creates like big snowdrifts, but also makes it a lot harder for people searching for her. It's just harder to get about, but also it covers up any tracks that she might have left. And it's also dark because it's after school when they realise that she's gone missing, and by that point it's already dark, so it's just a really hard search for them to do. And also, obviously, the ice palace has formed, this incredible ice structure over a huge roaring waterfall that later on in the book the children go skiing near and over, and the children are obviously quite used to going skiing in Norwegian winter. Part of me thinks it would be really incredible to experience those extreme temperatures and weathers. The other much bigger part of me really struggles with our fairly mild British weather, so I'm not sure moving to Norway would be a great move, but I do think it would be kind of incredible to see the ice palace and see that much snow and feel that cold just for a brief period of time. But that's quite interesting, because that is so different to my experience of the weather and the world and the natural environment, that it's always really nice to read books like this written by the author who is from that country and has those experiences, and can describe them so effectively, and you really do get a sense of the winter and the cold and the dark. So that's very effective in the book, and it does play a big part of the story, as well as just making it atmospheric. Ultimately though, I think there's just something in this book that I can't get my head around. The children are 11, and I just can't remember what it's like to be 11. It was written in the 1960s, and I assume set around that same period, which would explain why the children are going out at night by themselves so often, or in the dark at least, unchaperoned, because that's just what people did back then. It's set in Norway, a country I've never been to, in the middle of their deep winter, which is something I've never experienced. And although it's nice to read about different places and people and things that you may never get to experience, and that's how you learn about the world, I do just think there was something I couldn't quite connect with it, and I just didn't quite get it as a result. Yeah, I don't know. Let me know what you think if you've read it and how you felt about it. It may be that, I mean, I finished it yesterday, it may be that I just need to let it sit with me for a bit longer. And maybe I'll start thinking about it more and more. Sometimes books are like that. Anyway, that is my little review of the Ice Palace. Like I said, let me know what you think, and I will be back for hopefully some more book related videos, and I also do sewing as well.